Welcome to Business Talks with your host, Kent Adams. Join Kent now as he sits down with business and community leaders to discuss a wide range of important topics in business. Business Talks is brought to you in part by STCU. Now, here's Kent.
Well, welcome to Business Talks. Kent Adams here. Hope you're having a good day. And one of the things that we're very fortunate about is to bring in some guests that have been in business. Sometimes they've been in several businesses and started their own and so forth. And I'm pleased to introduce you to LORAN Graham. And how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's
All
a
right.
pleasure to be here. And
Good to have you. You are, I'm going to introduce you as the broker, the investor that helps people. But you come at it completely different than anyone else I know. There are people who really live their faith on their cuff and so forth, and yet maybe sometimes put aside that feeling, that perspective, as they look at how do they plan for the future and those kinds of things for their families. But your approach is all integrated. Let's go back. Okay, I've kind of set that up, but let's go back to your past and how you got to what you're doing now, and then we'll talk about that. So you've had a few years in the business, right?
I have, yeah. So I've managed my own practice for the last 12 years, and I've been in the securities industry for closer to 17 years.
Right.
But it all sort of goes back to my college years at UCLA when I first found my faith. And
At UCLA?
I did. My freshman year.
I'm saying it that way because there are people out there going, I never would have thought about that at UCLA, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I growing up, I didn't grow up in a religious home. We were just taught to, do the right thing, and
Right.
and for me to make up my own mind as I got older, and I kept my nose clean and growing up for the most part, just because.
Well, we have this FBI report. No, I'm kidding.
But I was actually, interestingly, I was motivated in high school by what our culture tells us is the definition of success, which is, get good grades, get into a good school,
Right.
find a career, the white picket fence, and all that.
Yes.
And getting into college was a first notch in that belt, and it was great experience. I worked hard to get into a good college program, but the euphoria wore off pretty fast, and I realized, it's just the next
This isn't
thing.
all fun and games, right?
Yeah, it's just the next thing and the next thing, and sort of that hamster wheel. And
Where did you go to high school?
I grew up in a suburb about an hour north of Los Angeles.
Okay.
In a town called Westlake Village, and so I went
Yes.
to Westlake High School, and
Okay.
played football there, and I was a swimmer, and but it was a good experience. And
Good.
I when I went into college, that's when I really started asking some bigger questions, like
Yes.
what's the purpose of life, and all
Yes.
those deeper things, and that's when I came to a faith in Jesus Christ and accepted as my Lord Savior, and became a Christian.
Yes.
And tried to live out what that meant. And
that's kind of unusual because you mentioned earlier that it wasn't a religious family you were in, and that usually does help move people, through the family process and into going to church and the religious aspect and so forth. But you found it on your own. Was there something at UCLA and at the time that you were there that drew you in to start looking at that?
There was, part of it was just wanting a relationship with our Creator. I think everybody at some level is looking for that.
Right.
And it's funny. I was actually, I got a hold of a copy of a Bible.
Okay.
But it was in a King James format, and it sort of sounded like very Shakespearean, and
Okay, yes.
didn't really understand it very much.
Can someone help me interpret? Yeah,
exactly. And from the outside looking in, wondering if I'd ever really be accepted in a faith tradition, or would I be that proverbial stepchild? And so well, I was on my way to class, and I was actually running a little late, and I saw a flyer for a Bible study, and I went to that, and that's when it was really, I met somebody there that explained to me what it meant, that we're, separated from God by our sin, and that it's only by accepting God's forgiveness we can be reconciled, and it's by grace, not by anything that we might do. So it's not by any effort on my part that I could have that personal relationship with God. And so that's where the journey began. I'm still a work in progress.
We all are, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
Indeed. So,
This person that you talked to, did you end up having a continued relationship with him or her in terms of the following through? Did they kind of mentor, answer questions? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you're by yourself, but if there's somebody there to guide you or to just even answer questions helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I did, and I got plugged into a great group of folks up at Bel Air Presbyterian Church, which sounds really fancy, but they just had a great college group near the campus, and and in the true interest of loving our neighbor, it was a pretty even mix between UCLA and USC students, which is our arch rival. So we got along pretty well.
I love that.
But
my mom went to USC and my dad UCLA.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and so growing up, it was always the bet of who was going to win, and my mom would win once in a while and get to go to a dinner with dad and a movie and things like that. And when he'd win, I don't remember when, it wasn't that exciting, but you know what I mean? It's just, but the rivalry is still there.
Absolutely, yeah. And my grandparents went to USC, and my grandfather was also in the securities business. We had sort of a special relationship when I got into that investment industry.
Nice.
But around football season, it got a little tense. So.
You can talk to me, Loran, but you got to call me. I don't want to see you for 2 weeks, right? Yeah, that's great. You had a special relationship with your grandfather there.
I did, yeah. And my grandmother as well. But he worked as a stockbroker in the 1960s, and he was a retired Marine, retired lieutenant colonel in the Marines.
Okay.
Had served in World War II, and so when I got into the securities business, he gave me his library of all the classics on investing, and that was a neat.
I look back at my grandfather too. I didn't know my dad's father because he had passed away before my parents got married, but I remember my grandfather on my mom's side, and loved hearing the stories of back in the days when he was in the cavalry and everything else. And of course, this is basically well before home tape recorders, and I wish I had recorded a lot of that history, because as I grew up I started to love history. Well, you saw the pictures in my office and so forth, and so I'm glad. Grandparents can be really influential in life's stories as we continue for business, for personal things and so forth. So
absolutely,
that's neat. That is neat. So you're starting out, you go to UCLA, you graduate from there?
I graduated. I started a career in accounting, and I was an auditor for one of the big 5 firms.
Well, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I'm kidding.
I learned, accounting wasn't my passion, but I had.
How long did it take before you learned that?
About 2 years.
About 2 years. Okay.
But as doors open and opportunities follow each other, I had a great opportunity to work for one of the investment firms that I used to serve as auditor for. That's really how I got into the securities businesses. And their clientele were more institutional clients, so very large endowments and foundations, corporate type clients.
Right.
But it really gave me a purview into what are those best practices and how to invest wisely and so forth. And I did that for about 5 years. But as
good learning experience, though.
It was
absolutely, yeah,
absolutely. So, and it was about that time we were living in LA, my wife and I, and we were thinking about starting a family. And my wife's family is all from Spokane, and thinking about do we want to raise a family in LA, or and Spokane is such a great quality of life.
And what year was this?
So that was 2007.
Okay.
And so we got up here in the fall and opened the doors to my practice on January 1st of 2008, which is an interesting time to start a financial planning practice.
Yes.
Just before the eve of the Great Recession.
Yes.
But also was actually perfect because even though it was very stressful at the time, I had a chance to really live through that, and it's almost like having
and get organized and launch a business,
right?
And because you got to spend some time launching the business and so forth, and if it comes too easy, you'll want to work for it a little bit, right?
Yeah. So,
gosh, well, let's do this. Let's take a break, and when we come back, I know there's more to the story. Okay, then that's what impresses me about you. So we'll take a break and be back right after this.
I'm Nikki Butler, and I'm a regional manager for STCU. My lunch buddy is Nicole.
I'm Brandy Schloss. I'm a regional manager at STCU. My lunch buddy is Angelina. She's grown up with me. I've grown up with her. To see her graduate will be a lot of fun.
Brandy and I have been lunch buddies since the girls were in 2nd grade. It's great that STCU provides me with the opportunity to be part of Reach for the Future. We are committed to the children. We're committed to our community. I'm Nikki.
I'm Brandy.
And STCU is here for good.
We believe every person is created in the image of God with immeasurable beauty and worth, that people should not be defined by their present condition or past mistakes. We are all broken. We need each other. Healing for our brokenness begins with connection, with understanding how much we are loved by a good God. And with healing comes change, the potential for joy and meaning. No one was created for mere survival on the streets, for an existence blurred by mind-numbing substances. Each person is created with a purpose, a unique gift no one else can offer the world. Our job is to help them rediscover it. Real people, real change. Union Gospel Mission.
Welcome back, Loran Graham. Almost said Lauren Green. Do you know who I'm talking about? From Bonanza?
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I'm going, okay. Lauren is not a name you hear every day, like Kent or John or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, are you named after somebody?
There's a story to that.
Oh, okay.
So the story goes that my mom picked the name and my dad picked the spelling, and I have two brothers, Alan and Brian, and a sister also, but. And one of my brothers is no longer living, but
sorry.
But my dad says that he wanted all the boys to end with AN.
Okay.
And that was his story. But it just so happens he's also a pilot, and in that day, in the 70s and 80s, the predecessor to the GPS navigational system was something called the LORAN system, which is what the Navy and the Coast Guard used. And it was anyway, long story short, he won't admit it, but I'm pretty certain I'm named after an obsolete radio navigational system.
Well, but you're still here. Okay.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that story.
Well,
I was supposed to be Kent John Adams.
Okay.
And my mom and dad said, no, that doesn't flow like it should. So it's going to be John Kent Adams, but we're always going to call him Kent. That happened until computers came into play, and I was Adams, John K. Okay? And then when I became eligible for Medicare and all of that, all my medical related stuff, I'm Adams, John. And so, in fact, the first time I'm in a doctor's office, they call John, And I didn't pay any attention because I'd always been called Kent for 65, 66 years, right?
Sure, sure.
So we all have our little fun stories.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so you started your company on January 2nd or
Sure.
1st?
First, 2008.
Okay.
So just
right as the recession was taking off. Yeah,
Right,
I remember those days. Okay. Good timing for both of us and some things I was doing too. So yeah. So you're spending time looking for clients. But was it at that time that you decided to have a different kind of company?
It was close, yeah. So I started up just as a traditional financial planning practice.
Right.
As a certified financial planner and CPA, so I had the credentials.
Yes.
And and I had an understanding what the best practices were for
Sure.
financial planning. But it was about 6 months in that my wife and I had gone through a biblical financial study at our church.
Oh, okay.
And it was a paradigm shift for me because I'd always thought of faith and work and finances
Right.
Probably the way most people do.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
is
I think
that,
you're right.
I work Monday through Friday or Saturday, and then Sunday is the day for church, and
Yeah.
we give
And everything is categorized.
right. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
and give 10% to the church, and the 90% I can spend how I please, and
Right.
and that's sort of how. And we had always been generous and committed to the tithe, but that's kind of sort of how I saw that in terms of compartmentalized. And what this study really opened up for me was a more biblical worldview about money,
Okay.
which is really, Psalm 24 and other references. Everything in the heavens and the earth is the Lord's.
Okay.
It's this idea that God owns it all, and it's not just the 10%, but all of it. And He calls us to be good stewards of His resources.
Right.
And we're stewards, not owners of
Right.
whatever God entrusts to us during our lifetimes, and the evidence that we're
Including kids.
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's not just money; it's relationships,
right.
it's opportunities. Everything that we have is because of God, and
Yeah.
and so with that understanding, it's changed my view to this idea that there's no division between the
Right.
secular and the sacred; that all things are sacred, and everything that we do are how we treat others, how we spend money, how we give, how we act toward others. It's all tied together. And
Do we just talk about it or do we live it?
exactly right? Yeah,
What
that's
it's
right.
what it comes down to,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So
Yeah.
the idea that we can worship God in all these different areas of our life, and so it and it's funny. I made the connection that, gosh, I wonder if I could teach some of these concepts in my practice.
Mhm.
And through a series of events and people, I came to find an organization called Kingdom Advisors.
Okay.
And it's got over 3,000 members and becoming really the gold standard and as an organization for financial advisors wishing to teach biblical concepts to their clients.
Yeah.
And then they have a credential that I also obtain
Okay.
called a Certified Kingdom Advisor. And
Oh, wow.
you have to have either a CFP or a CPA license to earn that.
Right.
But in addition, there's a curriculum and a
I
proctored
would
exam.
guess, right.
And pastoral references and so forth. So it's become the gold standard for financial advisors desiring to provide clients with a biblical perspective on money.
Wow.
And so I've had that credential since 2009.
Okay.
And it's been just a blessing to really make what was a business into more
calling.
A calling.
It
and-
really is, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I call it a marketplace ministry.
Okay,
That
yeah.
we're helping
I like that.
families, develop real plans. So we're a team of certified financial planners, and
Yeah.
we develop real plans to help clients address their future needs, and
Right.
often that includes saving and investing for the future.
Right.
And to do so in a way that makes a positive impact in the world.
Okay.
In how we're investing for them.
What are some of the things as you sit down with a client that you look for when you talk about making a positive impact? I am assuming you're talking about how someone invests their dollars, that it has obviously a return for them because that they're taking care of their retirement and
Sure.
what they want to do and so forth. But then looking, how do they make an impact out in the community?
Absolutely. So, our culture, our American culture, tends to view retirement as this perpetual leisure vacation, and you see the ads on TV about people just sitting
At
on
73,
the beach.
I haven't seen that yet. Okay.
Okay. That's good. Well,
Yeah.
what we've seen is, and there's evidence to support this, that we were designed for purpose. And so that this idea of perpetual leisure, now leisure is good,
Yes.
God created the earth and then he rested.
Right.
But at the same time, where we've seen clients really thrive in retirement, are those that are really connecting how has God uniquely wired them with their talents and experience and spheres of influence to make impact in their community and their families.
Right.
And really so there's a book that we love to weave into the curriculum called Halftime.
Okay.
And it's a great
I love
picture
it. Yeah.
of by Bob Buford is the author, but it's this idea that retirement is really the start of the second half.
Yes.
And how can we have impact? And so if we can help families and individuals order their finances in such a way that if they are blessed with abundance, that they can have real impact,
Right.
And experience the joy of generosity. Because we can't take it with us.
Nope.
But there's a phrase. One of my favorite authors, Randy Alcorn, has a phrase that says, "You can't take it with us, but you can send it on ahead."
Okay.
Make investments in the future.
Yeah. I mean, when I looked at retirement, it was I worked longer than most people today, although I see the trend where people are working longer, especially if you enjoy what you're doing. I really do think that's important. And I've been blessed to have a couple different careers and different jobs that I've always enjoyed, and when I didn't, I fired them and moved on to something else, because we only get one time at this, and let's do things that we like and that help people. That's kind of been my mantra and so forth. But you gotta, I think it's important. I mean, I could have gone out like so many of my peers in the community and helped at Habitat for Humanity, except they would have fired me day one, even as a volunteer, because I can't hit a nail with a hammer. I mean, that's not my talent. My talent is helping people understand what's going on, talking about people who create businesses and so forth, and it kind of ended up being this, and so forth. You have gone to the point of even writing a book, haven't you? I'm going to hold it up so they can kind of see it. What got you to this point to sit down and write a book?
Yeah, well, so we have a specialty wealth management practice, and so it's this idea of aligning investment choices to faith values, to biblical values, and so it's this idea we can make a positive impact in the world, and the way we do that is we're working with fund managers who screen the investment decisions. So we're investing in companies whose products and services are contributing to human flourishing and innovation, and avoiding companies whose products and services either cause physical harm to others or prey on the weaknesses and addictions of others. And so that whole philosophy is known as biblically responsible investing or faith-based investing.
Nice.
And this book's now in the so it's not a technical book. It's not a how-to book. It's really designed to be a lighthearted, quick read for the average investor to understand. Why does it matter? What's the heart story behind? And so it's in the second printing we added the subtitle, how investment choices can be an act of worship, and because that is the heart behind it.
Going back to what you talked about at the beginning, we had always separated that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So as we're aiming for the best returns that we can for each individual investors' needs and objectives and risk comfort and all that we can do so in a way that also honors the Lord by reflecting His love and compassion in the marketplace.
And you can do that as the investor, as you help the investor, your client, while they're alive.
Absolutely.
Versus so often we hear about, someone has left in an endowment and those kinds of things.
Right.
But you don't get to enjoy, to see the reward of the giving, but what the organization is doing with those dollars, because you've passed on.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing that, but I'm saying here's an opportunity while we're alive to participate, to direct where the dollars are going
Yeah.
to go, and so forth.
Well, one of my mentors, Ron Blue, who for many years led the Kingdom Advisors organization. I love one of his quotes. He says, "Do your giving while you're living, so you're knowing where it's going."
I love it.
And,
I love it.
And you can
And
experience
that's what it is.
And that's on the generosity side
Yeah.
of the equation. But yeah, this is an opportunity to say, okay, as we're investing and planning for the future and growth,
Right.
that we can actually participate in actually what's becoming a growing movement
Right.
across the country, where literally billions of dollars are flowing this direction to
And
change Wall Street culture.
And we've heard that, at least I've heard that in other areas, like
Mm-hmm.
the responsible investing in things that help clean up not only the economy, but I mean
Environmental
issues,
yeah,
and,
right.
and where people can be involved in things to help with the forest and lakes and a number of things like that. But this is still kind of new, isn't it?
It is,
Even though you've been
relatively.
doing it for a few years. It's
Yeah. As a movement,
Yeah.
this investing style has been around for the better part of 15 or so years.
Okay.
But it's really just the last 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
that it's really taken off and gotten popular. There's a lot of that socially responsible investing. In
Yes.
fact, you might find it fascinating. 1 in every $5 invested around the world is now invested in some way that screens for social,
Okay.
environmental, or faith values.
So it's grown bigger than I had thought.
It has, yeah,
Yes,
and
okay.
accelerating, And so you may have heard terms like impact investing or ESG,
Okay.
which environment, social, and governance, socially responsible. These are all
Right.
kind of under the umbrella
Sure.
of the idea of investing your values. And it's interesting. We're approaching the greatest wealth transfer in the
Yeah.
history of the world. The next 20 years, trillions of dollars will be
Right.
changing hands, and the millennials, they get this actually better than any other generation. That when surveyed, that it's important to them that they want to
Yep.
change the world through how they're doing everything from career to investing, and
Exactly.
and so we're right on the cusp of that. And but you mentioned something earlier about wanting to have a impact generationally, and we really view part of what we teach in our planning is that there's 3 forms of capital that pass from generation to generation,
Okay.
and most of the focus traditionally is on the financial.
Yes.
But there's also the social capital and the spiritual capital
Okay.
that pass from generation,
Right.
and that's part of the legacy that each family leaves to the next generation. And so as we counsel clients, one example is we'll have clients write legacy letters.
Right.
So as you prepare your will or your estate plan,
Right.
to have a letter with that is sort of like a love letter to the kids, that you
Yes.
can reflect
Oh, that's
what you want them to remember about
yes.
you too.
Something tangible
Right.
that they can have too.
Right.
I mean, we're running out of time, but I want to ask, how can people get a hold of this?
Absolutely. So
are you selling them? And
we are, yeah.
Okay.
So they're on on our website, LORANGRAHAM.com.
Okay.
We offer a complimentary signed copy for initial consultations in our main business.
So if they come in and have to sit across the table from you, right? No.
or video conference. We serve clients all over the country.
Yeah. Welcome to the 21st century. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also on Amazon,
Okay.
or at the publisher is Kingdom Life Publishing. They can
Okay.
find it there also.
Okay, great.
So-
This is great. I've got one more question. Have you had any pushback from people that you've been working with, or are they all of the mindset when they come to you wanting this?
Absolutely. So we serve a very diverse and inclusive practice.
Okay.
I like to say I'll work with anyone that wants to work with me.
Okay.
And we do have a minimum investment criteria, so
Okay.
which is $250,000. But
Okay.
but in terms of philosophy,
Yes.
what we find is our clients might not agree with every area that we're screening in, but
Right.
they understand that what we're trying to do is make a positive impact.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to our investing and screening approach, it's something where
Well, you're upfront with them too, so they know where you're coming from, and if they really oppose it, they can find other people out there.
Right.
So,
Yeah, but really no pushback. It's actually been surprising that we have many clients that have different faith traditions,
Okay.
different of different religions, of
Right.
different political views, different
Right.
just
But you can help them find a way to activate their investments in ways that benefit the things they care about.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
in that sense, there we maintain a mutual trust and respect with all of our clients.
Yeah,
And
that's
and-
important. Well, Lauren, I've enjoyed the couple of times we've had a chance to sit down, and I'll have to tell you, you're an easy person to talk to. I never feel like you're selling, because we all know those who do. And I love what you're doing. I think you're on the right track, and we all need to be looking at where we can help support the things that we really believe in, whether it be the environment, our faith, or whatever, and look for ways that benefit us and our family, but also benefit out there, and we can see some results while we're still alive. And so thank you for coming in today.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, so we're headquartered in Spokane.
Yes, yes.
And the firm name is LORAN GRAHAM Co.
Okay.
But we provide all of our security offerings and advisory services through our broker-dealer, LPL Financial,
Okay.
which is the largest independent broker-dealer in the country.
Okay,
And
great.
they provide all of our infrastructure. So
Right.
we have all the feel of a small community
Right.
firm.
But the support of the big,
Right.
yeah. Once again, how can people reach you?
So our website, lorangraham.com, and
Okay.
remember the first name is LORAN.
Okay, yes, I'm
Graham.
glad you said it
So
this time, yeah.
and we have all of our information there to
Okay.
schedule a meeting with us, and I encourage also to pick up a copy of the book as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I've got my copy, but you know what my December was like, so I've not had a chance to read it yet. Okay, but it's sitting there on the table next to my big chair.
I will.
Okay, so I will get to it.
Thank you.
Can I send critiques?
You may, only if they're good though.
I was kind of thinking you might say that.
Yeah.
Lauren, thank you very much for what you're doing too.
Thank you. My
All right.
pleasure. So-
Thanks for watching Business Talks. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Business Talks is brought to you in part by STCU. Hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.